Okay, speaking of the NFC West, and speaking of the defending NFC champion San Francisco 49ers, let's see how they did on. Oops, y'all weren't supposed to see that. Let's see how they did on the grading scale. And the reason I'm starting with them, well, one, they are the defending NFC West champions. And two, they're going to be loaded for next year, even though they've lost some very, very big key pieces. And let's go over what they have added to their lineup. They added defensive end Leonard Floyd, defensive end Yatir Gross-Matos, defensive tackle Jordan Elliott, and defensive tackle Malik Collins. They've also re-signed offensive tackle Colton McKivitz, quarterback Brandon Allen, and safety George Odom. They've lost quarterback Sam Darnold, cornerback Isaiah Oliver, defensive end Cleveland Farrell, and they also, courtesy of yesterday, they lost Chase Young to the New Orleans Saints, a one-year, fully guaranteed $1 million deal. Now, we still have the draft to go. We got a long way to go before next football season, but in terms of free agency, giving them a B. They could have done more, but at the same time, they have to stay within cap space because there are some picks in the draft that they can get to help get some depth along the offensive line and some depth at wide receiver because believe me, I believe they're going to be working on a big contract for one Brandon Ayuk. They've already tendered Juwan Jennings, but you got to have some depth. Oh, excuse me. I feel a sneeze coming, and I don't know when it's going to come, so I will say excuse me in advance. They got to get some depth. That has been the bugaboo of the 49ers since 2019. Now, in 2 trips to the Super Bowl, they've had the depth to get them through. Yes, but they really need it, especially with the loss of one of the biggest pieces of their defense. Of course, I'm talking about Dre Greenlaw, who tore his ACL in the Super Bowl. And the other piece that they lost was a spare part whom they drafted at number 1 when they let DeForest Buckner go. And that's Javon Kinlaw. Signed a 1-year deal with the New York Jets, and the 49ers wouldn't pick up his option. He was good and he was serviceable. I'm just afraid that and Ryan McCarthy is going to kill me for this, but I'm just afraid that he's going to get ruined by the Jets and the Jets culture. I really hope to be wrong with that statement. The Niners also lost defensive tackle Eric Armstead, and Armstead is with Jacksonville. Right now. Floyd is in elite company as one of only 3 players with at least 9 sacks in each of the last 3 seasons, along with 2023 Defensive Player of the Year Myles Garrett and Pro Bowler Hassan Reddick. There's a name on the market that the Niners could go after. That's Hassan Reddick. Gross-Matos, a former second-round pick of the Carolina Panthers, didn't play up to his pedigree in Charlotte, but perhaps San Francisco can help unlock them like they did Charles Omenihu a couple of years ago. Collins also adds depth on the defensive line, and Kendrick should strengthen what is already a solid 49er defense. Of course, they hired a new defensive coordinator, and that, of course, is Nate Sorensen. I had a talk with Jamie Winborn. I'll replay that interview sometime later. And he talked about how good Sorensen was defensively. And I've had a lot of people ask me, why do you think they let Steve Wilkes go? I was wondering the same thing. Then I listened to an interview with the voice of the 49ers and Greg Papa. And he mentioned one word, which told me everything I needed to know. Because if you watch the 49ers this past year, they took a step back on defense, coming down from the number 1 ranking that they've had the last 2 years under DeMeco Ryans. And they fell to, I believe, 9th or 10th. And the one word that was mentioned was disconnect. There was a lot of disconnect in that locker room, and I can't tell you when exactly the 49ers defense was lost by Steve Wilks. And a lot of people, the social justice warriors are going to think, oh well, he got cut because he was black. Wrong answer. There was a disconnect in that locker room, and you can see it in their performance on the field. Because if there wasn't a disconnect, they'd have rolled through Kansas City. They'd have rolled through Kansas City on their defense alone. Their defense kept them in the game, but they couldn't finish the job. Okay? Part of the blame, as I said before, is on the offense. Part is on defense. But there's so much more I can get into with that. I'll do that at a later date. So far in free agency, I'm giving the 49ers a B. Now that could change in the next couple of weeks leading up to the draft. It could go lower, it could go higher, but that's the grade I am giving them right now.